All of our forefathers looked this way, swaying with the wind, feeling of being in the trees. Every single person who's ever been enlightened ever has loved climbing trees, or has loved to be in trees, or has loved nature. When you think of nature, you think of nation. And almost every nation is against our own nature, because it's not natural for you not to be allowed permission to walk across the lines because they allow you no admission. It's not natural that as a teen you're not allowed to migrate to where you want to live. It's not natural to be sitting down watching television and enjoying other places that you're not in. It's not natural that people that are living in the hot climates in the poorer countries are looking at the people in cold countries and almost wishing they were there because the money's there. All these people are satisfied with where they're living. More than we are. We tell ourselves to satisfy ourselves. We're telling ourselves to feel satisfied with everything outside in Canada, when we're not all meant for that type of climate. But we're born into it, and our family's generations into this new type of thing is so young that we haven't all started to become light yet, especially since all the people from the other countries are still coming over here. Canada is pretty much like, it's like a breeding ground to keep our skin pigmentation from becoming lighter over 16 generations. It takes 16 generations for our pigment in our skin to turn lighter. And then you gotta question how much lighter did it have to get in order for white people to be actually white people? I'm gonna For instance, when you look at the Eskimos, their skin's a lot lighter than the natives who live more south. The more south you go, the darker their skin is. So when I was in Edmonton, the first time I heard of this concept, I was living in the apartment buildings, and there's a kid outside all the time playing with thousands of toys. I always used to sit on the steps, and this kid would play with me because he was outgoing. And he was white, and he told me white people have white skin because of the cold. Now, I didn't agree with him at that time, but I didn't disagree with him, as with many things that I encountered. But it takes the innocence of a child to see things as they are. It's usually your first instinct that is the best. And when you're taking a bunch of all these people taking these selfie pictures, it's usually the first picture that's the best, the one that's natural. Now if you look at Eskimos, their skin's lighter than like Mayan people and people that are further south. And how come you don't see any of those people white? So then you gotta question how long the first white people chose to stay living in the Arctic. How much malnutrition they were getting. How much of an unnatural balance would it take for that much pigment to leave the skin? Almost all of it. That means it's super cold. And I think it's in a time where they didn't have snowmobiles, they didn't have this and that. So primarily they're probably eating all fish, eating everything that they could hunt, getting malnutrition. And now look, now the world is conquered and controlled by white people, and it's all about meat, and it's all about the unnaturalness of meat. Even Africa, which is the most primitive place right now, the most primitive people, were once advanced societies, but right now are the most primitive people. Even they have enough taste to know not to put sauce on their meat, to at least appreciate the animals that they eat as the animals that they eat. So when white people came from having no sauce or no anything and just eating meat all the time, and then when those groups of white people decided to migrate, they lost touch through generations of their true inner being, and they disconnected from the nature and rather connected with just the frozen water and the animals and everything that's white. Ironically, white encompasses every color. So when the white people, some of the white people who were older souls, decided to migrate down, even then they were ignorant and just told, they were all telling fairy tales to each other. When you look at all the natives and all the First Nation type of people, they're all telling fairy tales to each other. They don't really know.